Hey, very quickly, right after I recorded this video, I found a great video by a fellow named Alpha Guy 2, who has a history of Isdera video with some really great information on the alleged second commendatory 112i. So definitely check out that video too. Janky, do you thank you?
All right, welcome back to Janky AF. Today, a special little ditty I wanted to do. It's come to my attention, a lot of people's attention in the automotive world, that none other than the Isdera Commendatore 112i is coming up on the auction block through Sotheby's, I believe February 13th. I had sort of always followed this car, always searching it, like back to supercars.net. I don't know if anyone remembers that website. And like many other people, I got hooked on this car in Need for Speed 2, and then after that, Need for Speed 2 SE. I had both those games. I remember the box, the flip out, the Ferrari F50, the embossed cover on the box. Everything about those games is just such tactile, visceral memories for me, as I imagine it is for many other people. And that's why this car is so special to a lot of people, and that's all aided by, you know, the mystery and the allure of it only being one car. And what happened to it? Where is it? You know, now on Instagram a couple years ago, it seemed like somebody who was connected with the company, although it wasn't saying that, because you could see Imperators, which is the other major Isdera model, and you would find that the Commendatore on Instagram. So that made me happy. And then when the news came up about this, I mean, it makes me happy too, even though I'm not going to be able to afford it. Although I thought the Sotheby's auction estimate was like incredibly low. It was like $400,000 to $600,000. I mean, that's a steal if you think about what like a brand new, I don't know, McLaren P1 costs. Like certainly you're getting a newer piece of technology, but for only 101. But I digress. So we'll do a real quick overview, but the point of this video is that for a while I was finding these videos of what looked like a second Commendatore 112i, and I was like, what the hell is going on? You know, like, is there a second one? And then some of the articles, I read all the articles. One was like, oh, a second one was started but never finished. But just all these murky details, all this sort of haziness that surrounds this just absolutely incredibly beautiful vehicle. And very powerful by all accounts vehicle, and just stunning. So brief background, most of you probably know the story, but this guy Eberhard Schulz, and as these many articles do a good job of explaining, he was kind of this autodidact. He was kind of the self-taught guy, and eventually got a job working with Porsche because he basically showed up with his own sports car that he had built by himself in his garage. So right there, you know, seems like a very charismatic figure, self-taught, sort of a very cool story. And you know, the Mercedes V12 that's in this vehicle would have famously go on to be in the Pagani Zonda. I don't know how other people pronounce that, but I say Pagani. Pagani Zonda. So now where it gets interesting is that apparently there was a lot of funding from Japan involved. The Japanese economy took a hit. And so this car had to be sold off as the company basically like imploded, you know, small car companies. And then it was bought by a Swiss person or group at some point. It was reintroduced with these like sort of 5-spoke wheels on it with a more silver and less like kind of this misty blue metallic paint job. The BBS wheels were gone. The periscope mirror on the top of it famously was gone. So a lot of the kind of key identifying, you know, features of it. What was very interesting is that this car was, Need for Speed 2 apparently came out in 1997. And this car was made or completed around 1993, which is crazy because you think it was so far ago now, and the car is obviously still relevant. But think about it, that this car was languishing for 4 years before it got a Need for Speed 2. So already what a miracle that was, that the car even made it into that game. Now, 4 years in the supercar world was probably a longer time than nowadays where things are just moving so fast. But I thought that was a really interesting statistic. So the car gets produced, only one of them gets produced, although some of these articles said that a second one was started. They have financial issues, like, you know, every other supercar maker basically ever that was trying to produce cars at volume. McLaren F1, you know, and from there on down. So then what happens is I'm reading all these articles. I'm getting nerding out real hard on this car because, you know, I've seen glimpses of it on Instagram, but to see it written about in the press and stories in this year is so exciting because it's like kind of getting its day, you know, and you wonder who's going to buy it, what's going to happen. Now we have, and you'll see on the screen, well, actually, first how I came to this was a video, which is this video, which is Core of Cars, I guess it is. I'm not good at reading sometimes. And I'm sure other people have seen this, but it came out in September 2019, so not that long ago. And it only has 13,000 views, which is a decent amount of views, but certainly not a ton, especially with all the interest that this car has been generating and how little video there is of it. 103 subscribers. And then, interestingly, the comments are turned off, which is like sort of foreshadowing here. So again, secrecy, mystery, like... Now, my first thought, I had two first thoughts. Like, first one being, well, maybe this was just when they turned it into a Mercedes to try to sell it, and it was eventually sold. Maybe this was just like sort of in the early era where they took the wheels off and did all these things to it, and it's got to be that car. But the video is it just teases you. It shows enough, and it's like high def enough quality that it's like, oh, this is like a real car. Like, this looks like the Isdera Imperator. It's got the Isdera markings on it, which is interesting. It's not the Mercedes markings on it. And then I watched this video just over and over again, and every time this car never gets less beautiful. It's absolutely astounding how beautiful car this is. How beautiful this car is. And they show it, you know, just cruising along what looks like these, you know, like backcountry roads in like Slovenia or something like that. And that's no shade against Slovenia. I've been to Slovenia. It's absolutely beautiful. But two things coming to, like, so first of all, we have the side exhaust here. So that's very, very weird. And also some sort of strange foreshadowing. And then I would just go back and forth. I would just look at these interior shots, and then look at the Sotheby's, and then look at these interior shots, and look at the Sotheby's, compare the dashboards. Like, there's no red line on this dashboard. You know, I'm trying to do all this detective work. Clearly, it's not the same car. This one's all trimmed out in gray. The periscope mirror is there, which is really, really cool. And actually, you know, for what this video is, you still get some really cool glimpses of being in the car and what it might look like to see that periscope mirror, which is really, really cool. But you know, we just have this teaser of a video, and I'm like, what the hell is this other car? And why is nobody else talking about it? Like, is it the original? It's just gone through at one stage of its life, it was painted this color, but why is there only one video of it? And why does it look different inside? You know, is it a prototype? So then I'm thinking, well, maybe, because the other strange thing about this whole story is, why is Eberhard Schulz and the Isdera Group, which is finally a company again, finally seems to have some sort of, like, you know, at least enough money to buy back their old car, why are they selling this like crown jewel of their collection, you know? And then I'm like, well, maybe he's selling it because he built himself a second one and he finished off the project, and he's got one that he can drive around and keep, and, you know, sell off the one that's obviously going to be more valuable because it has all the provenance of being the only one. And I just could not find any more information on it, and it was a mystery, and I was like, what the hell? Incidentally, this car in white, I would love to see this next to a Ford GT90, which is like the other like unicorn car one-off also from Need for Speed, but that's neither here nor there. Also, the blue color schemes on the interior is another interesting parallel. But again, I digress. So article after article, one of one, and that's the other thing. It's only one. There's only one. There's only one. It all starts to make sense because eventually I find this article, which is secretclassics.com, which seems like it must be like some sort of European site. And then again, 5/9/2019. So May of 2019. This is posted in September of 2019. So not long ago. And this is Matthias Kierst. And I'm just going to read most of this because I found it fascinating. Isdera Commendatore 112i. update, we added an open letter of Isdera founder Eberhard Schulz at the end of this article. So they must be in some direct contact with him. Okay, so the history of the small series brand Isdera. Okay, this is, again, it's an acronym for a German engineering bureau for styling, design, and racing. Goes back to 1969, Eberhard Schulz. We won't read the whole thing here. But originally, a small series was planned as well, and quite a few sports car fans would probably have approved of this model. However, Isdera went into bankruptcy and the car remained unique. But in the truest sense of the word, this one has it fist thick under its bodywork. I'm not sure what that means. This one has it fist thick under its bodywork. Okay, well, obviously I'm not good enough a car guy to know that one. Maybe it's a European thing. Directly behind the two passengers, the engine sits. Okay, we all know this. He got the gearbox and added a sixth gear from it because it didn't come with a manual gearbox originally. Just obviously a brilliant engineer. The BBS gold wheels, which are obviously taken away. Sorry, we'll get to this point. Okay, here we go. This is the new piece of information, and thank you to secretclassics.com for this. Now and here we could end the story of the Isdera Commendatore 112i. However, we would miss out one important part. There isn't only one car. And no, I don't know why anyone's talking about this. Already in 1993, there was a second tubular frame, which was kept by Isdera and hung as a decorative object under the ceiling of their headquarters. Until about 10 years ago, it just hung there until a brand fan and owner of several Isdera cars asked Eberhard Schulz to allow him to complete this car. After a few negotiations, they reached an agreement and the complex construction began. In contrast to other projects that take place in large industrial halls with an appropriate team, this enthusiast carried out almost all of the work at home in his double garage. For the bodywork, he was allowed to use the original molds. Wow. But it wasn't that easy with other components. He even had to order a special suitable manual transmission, as the 600 SE and S600, W140 back then, was only available as an automatic gearbox, which we knew, which is why Schulz had to do the original one. And if you go to the site, too, some incredible pictures of this vehicle. Like the production of the first Commendatore, the construction of the second car took a full 6 years. Also incredible. This also explains a detail that is particularly eye-catching for German car fans. The historical license plate on this car that is only available to cars older than 30 years. Both tubular frames date back from 1987 and are now 32 years old. For the body of the newly built car, the owner opted for the color light ivory, which in Germany usually adorns taxis and is also available as paint to sample for Porsche models. Another difference to the ice silver painted original can be found, I guess that's the color, ice silver, good color. Below the doors, where the tailpipes of the exhaust system come out of the bodywork as side pipes. Inside, light gray leather and matching carpet is used. In comparison to the original vehicle, it is noticeable and the design of the dashboard was changed. Noticeable that the design of the dashboard was changed, excuse me. Nevertheless, the interior still only offers little space for people over 1.8 meters tall. Neither here nor there. Okay, Isdera originally planned the Commendatore 112i as a sporty GT, which also explains the choice of the comparatively quiet V12 engine. One can only try to guess what influence this sports car could have had on the market of the mid-90s if the financial backup of Isdera would have backing of Isdera would have been better and a worldwide dealer network had existed. Then again, the Jaguar XJ220 had all that, didn't do so well. But this car is I very much like the XJ220. I have to digress here because they're super long. It looks like they're pretty wide, almost like more of a GT car. And that obviously, as we know, is that's one of my favorite cars of all time too. I love the XJ220. It's kind of a controversial car, but it's sort of had its day, getting its due now in the last 10 years, let's say. Thus, the Commendatore remains an unattainable dream for most car enthusiasts, most of whom have never seen it in real life. A good chance to meet it is the annual Oldtimer Grand Prix at the Nürburgring Ring with a little Luch. This is what I love, is this person's bringing us information that no one else is, and obviously the editing on this page is not very good. It's totally janky, but that's, very janky do thanky, and that's what we do here at Janky AF, as an aside. A good chance to meet, okay, blah, blah, blah. Both cars might be there together within the next few years. Well, I would doubt that after hearing this next. So now we have, allegedly, an open letter by Eberhard Schulz. And again, if this is an open letter, why is this only the one website publishing it? September 2019. Interestingly, 18th of September 2019, 14 days after this video is released on YouTube. In recent months, reports have been made concerning a vehicle with a license plate ES-UK112H. The reports indicate that this vehicle is a second Isdera Commendatore 112i. I would like to clarify the situation and give you a bit of background. There is only one Commendatore 112i. This car was presented at the IAA 1993 and then was photographed with the plate BBCW112. In the year 1999, the Commendatore was sold to a customer and was registered with the license plate AICR122. At that time, the customer already required certain adjustments like the two side mirrors on the front fender, etc. The car was then sold to Switzerland and was registered with the license plate SG1809. In the year 2016, the car was acquired by Sinfonia Automotive AG, now Isdera AG, again, and the company decided to restore the vehicle to its original appearance, including periscope mirror, original paint, original rims, etc. Together with the Isdera Classic team of Florian Ulbricht in Hildesheim and myself. After the restoration was completed, the car was registered with the license plate SLSCW112 in honor of the 1AA-1993 plate, and the car is still owned by Isdera AG. I'm very thankful that these efforts were made by the management of Isdera AG to assure that this legendary car can still be seen on the road and is made available to the public at selected occasions. By the way, around 6,000 miles on this car, which is obviously very, very low, but at the same time, it's still quite a lot for a one-off car. Do you know what I mean? Like, someone's driven this car 6,000 miles, which is pretty cool. Okay. At the time when the Commendatore 112i was built, we were working on a second vehicle, but only could manage to finish the tube frame partially before we had to stop this project. I was then approached a few years ago by an owner of other Isdera cars with the idea to use his half-finished tube frame to build a second Commendatore, knowing that this vehicle may not be road legal. Okay. Of course, I was very enthusiastic about this opportunity and agreed to support the process as well as providing some tools from my personal possessions. Soon into the project, the owner informed me that he believes fundamental modifications need to be done, as from his perspective, many things could be made better. Oh boy. I got the impressions that in principle, the owner intends to build his own car, but kidnapping the Isdera brand in order to somehow managing the registration of the car. Excuse me. I informed the owner that I will not further support his efforts and that I completely disagree with his intention. Such a car becomes a legend because it is made with certain constraints, whether it is time or money or technical constraints because of the intended performance, etc. The result of the work of the owner is that the vehicle looks like a Commendatore, but which has never been approved by myself and in particular was not built by Isdera or in collaboration with Isdera. However, even considering this background, the management of Isdera offered the owner to jointly communicate the vehicle in order to honor the efforts made by the owner building the vehicle in his own garage and to avoid any misunderstandings concerning the background of the vehicle. Okay, so let me read that again. Even considering this background, the management of Isdera offered the owner to jointly communicate the vehicle in order to honor the efforts made by the owner building the vehicle in his own garage and to avoid any misunderstanding concerning the background of the vehicle. The owner rejected this offer immediately and insisted that he has built the second Commendatore 112i and even tried to convince that management of Isdera that he has built a better Commendatore 112. Now that is pretty brash. Of course, the management of Isdera and myself came to the conclusion that this is the wrong way and ceased further communication with the owner. How sad. Okay, as the tube frame, now some technical mumbo-jumbo here, continuing from the letter. As the tube frame, of course, did not bear any vehicle identification number, the owner then used the vehicle registration number from an Imperator 108i, which is sad now because apparently that means that Imperator probably can't be driven, which was first registered with the vehicle identification number, blah, 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 for registration purposes and managed to register the car using this vehicle identification number. As the original Imperator 108i was registered on November 10th, 1988, the owner received an H license plate, which is applicable for historic vehicles. The car, ESUK 112H, has never been built by Isdera, nor is it a restoration of an Imperator 108i, as the vehicle license plate may indicate. The management of Isdera and myself take all necessary and available steps that this vehicle gets off the road. There is, and unfortunately will be, only one Commendatore 112i. I sincerely hope that this matter is solved soon and that such tampering, probably means tampering, with the legacy of Isdera is stopped by the authorities quickly. Thank you very much. Oh, there you go. Images. Car Byberg, Core of Cars, and Matthias Kierse. So I guess you can look up this Car Byberg person who must somehow knows the owner of this car. So what a story, huh? So this guy who already owns several of these Isderas, so obviously has been an investor in the company, has supported the company, has bought the product from the company, says, hey, Eberhard Schulz, why don't we, like, can you help me make a second one of these cars? He says, great idea. Now the weird thing here is, if you have these molds and you have this chassis, like, why don't you make the second car yourself if you're Isdera? Why would you let this enthusiast do it? Maybe you just don't have the resources to do it, and if he's going to be taking on the project, and, you know, apparently took him 6 years, maybe you just say, okay, like, if I can come out of this with a second Isdera. But again, really tricky. Once this person says, hey, by the way, your car's not that great, this legendary one-off car that I want to build the second one of is not that great. Do you mind if I, like, hack it up and put a side exhaust in, or like this and that? You know, you can see why he would be very, very offended by the same token. So anyways, I was just so excited about this Isdera Commendatore 112i news. And it's going up for auction in less than a week. Boy, if anyone out there buys it and wants to let me drive it, let me know. But I doubt that'll be happening anytime soon. So if you're like me and you love the Isdera Commendatore 112i, I thought I would just share that little story because it seems like there's not that many people talking about this extra side story of the second car, and I got so confused by the video of it, and then eventually found this article on this sort of, like, you know, obviously it's not like a mainstream United States site like a you know, Autoblog or Jalopnik or what have you. So anyways, that's it for me. Yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please considering liking or subscribing. We're Janky AF. We do janky things with cars, and Janky do Thanky.